And hello, everybody. Today is Business Acceleration Playbook. We're bringing you the plays that you need to win in your business. And today I have Angela. That's the only thing about the overlay. I can't see your name, Angela. I wish I could move you. I can.
Ooh.
There you go. So I'm Maria Daniels. This is Jeff Dwoskin, Anglea Buckley, and Ray is running late, so he should pop in a little bit. But we decided that we were going to do a panel discussion today, and I had messaged some of them the other day, and we were trying to decide what we were going to talk about. And Angela had a fabulous suggestion, and I'm going to let you kind of explain what the suggestion is, since obviously that's more your wheelhouse, and then we'll discuss it. That's the whole point of a panel discussion.
Excellent. Hey, yeah, thanks for having this today. I'm really excited to talk about positive psychology and how we can really use this as a tool in our wheelhouse to move people in the general direction that we want them to go, and how that can positively impact our business, and also just that general trust and relationship building that we want to see in our workplace.
So can you define for everybody what positive leadership is? First of all,
positive psychology, positive leadership. It's really about, instead of focusing on what you shouldn't do, like, hey kid, don't trip or don't run when you're at the pool, you would say, walk please, right? Or even better, when you see them walking, you're like, hi, thank you for walking today. I see that you're behaving really safely and you're being such a great role model for the other little kids on the pool deck. So these kinds of things are really positive, and they strike really at the core of an individual, that you're going to say, I want to feel good about this, as opposed to getting yelled at for running, right? So our opportunity is to really look forward, and we have to be very, as a leader, as a parent, doesn't matter. We have to be very proactive, and we have to actively be looking for those positive interactions to praise, right? So positive psychology has a lot to do with that positive reinforcement, that focusing on what is the behavior we're looking for, what is the behavior that we've expected, and then praising it when it's there, instead of just saying, well, I expected it, so you should have done it.
Gotcha.
So that's the focus, and there is quite a bit of research that supports that our interactions and the modifications of our behavior are greatly supported by that focus, as opposed to the constant don't run, don't run, don't run. Okay, but what am I supposed to do? You're supposed to walk safely and model that for other people, right? So, and how do you take that then? Not just from obviously a simple pool deck example, but how do you take that into your business? How do you move that forward? You know, I expect my employees to show up every day on time. It's an expectation, of course, but what am I going to do to reward them? When am I walking down the line and saying, thank you? Hey, guess what? There was a huge snowstorm today. I recognize that we all struggled to get here on time, but for those people who got there on time, they deserve a little extra bit of recognition and thank you. And that takes personal sacrifice. That meant that the night before they anticipated, the night before they planned, they got up early to overcome whatever those particular hurdles may have been, right? Like, I drive an hour. On a good day, I drive an hour. On a snowstorm day, I promise you it's 90 to 120 minutes in order to get to the office. Okay, you know, that takes planning. I actively have to go to bed. I have to make sure that I get up in time to shovel whatever else. I'm not the only person that does that. I work in a facility of 2,500 people. There are quite a few people that show up on snowy days. I think they deserve a recognition for that, right? So going out of your way and saying, I recognize the discipline, I recognize the activity, I recognize how that was a personal sacrifice on your part, and it shows your commitment to our organization. So by doing that, I've basically followed a formula that we can look at here in a little bit that's really driving at, one, praising the positive activity, and two, driving this back to that personal impact of talking about how that person is going to be receiving, and also the positive impact for the business, right? That commitment is helping us serve our customer. So we try to tie all of these things into one type of praise, and we really focus on that. And you talk about behavior modification, but using that positive psychology.
Okay. So I know I was sitting there thinking while you were talking on the companies that I worked for before I went on my own, and how very few of them did a very good job at what you were saying. I think that's something that a lot of companies do not consider enough, and I think it loses good employees, in my opinion. What about you, Jeff? Have you worked for companies that did a poor job of that, or maybe a good job of that?
I think I think everything you're talking about, Angela, is great. I do think, though, that most companies, they never celebrate the wins, no matter how big or small. It's never good enough, because the leaders always set the goals and then move on to a different goal. So in their head, there's always something that hasn't been achieved. And it is important to recognize the individual contributions that people make, I think. Some people maybe like it more publicly than others, but I do think that's something that lacks. I mean, I know I've been in positions where I don't necessarily want it, but it would be nice sometimes. And I had bosses that were very, just never would say anything type of thing. Sure. And it can be very demotivating.
So I attended a class, I don't know, quite a few years ago now at this point, and we kind of talked about a structure to it. And honestly, I mean, I grew up in a family with please and thank you, and I said thank you. But as I walked out, even as a manager, a young manager, I said thanks for a good job today, right? I said it to the room. I didn't say it specifically to any one person. And after attending this class with a little more structure and a little more understanding of positive psychology, I put together a formula for it. And I learned that really being a lot more specific about it and really being timely with it makes a big difference with how that person is open and willing to receive it. And it takes a little more effort than just thanks for a good day or thanks for showing up, to really have something that's going to be positive and impactful. So understanding that formula, if we can look at that, Maria, we can talk through it. So we put this formula together. Whoa, it's right over our head.
Yeah, there's
Jeff, you got to scoot out to the side there. Woo, look at that.
Just my hands. I'll give it jazz hands. Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. Wait, wrong way. I am terrible. No, that way.
So I'll hold the paper.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, let's talk about it really quickly. So the formula that we put together for making sure that we do a nice job of acknowledging and thanking our people can be summarized with the acronym SPIRIT. And really what we're looking at is being very specific. What exactly are you thanking someone for? What behavior did you see that you want to see regularly from that person or from the other team members, right? And it can be something as simple as wearing safety glasses. So especially right now, our people are struggling with wearing safety glasses because these face masks make everything be all foggy and stuff like that. So being specific about wearing face glasses. And it's personal. Like, I understand that this is a difficult thing for you at the moment. How do we handle that? So really driving that in and saying, thank you, Joe, for wearing your safety glasses. I understand that they get foggy from time to time, and we have to take them off to wipe them. It's very inconvenient given our current situation, but it makes a difference, right? And then we move on to this impact, and it's impact to the business, right? So you're modeling this good behavior is encouraging other people who are also reticent, who are also struggling to continue, and it's helping all of us stay safe, right? So now I've been very specific about wearing the glasses. I've made it very personal. It's tying into their personal value of helping their other friends and colleagues in the workplace. And it's relevant to what's happening right now, right? Honestly, our people put on safety glasses, but the safety glasses combo with the face mask is a big deal. So tying that relevance back in, And then making it inclusive, and by inclusive, I mean sometimes just make those statements public, or recognizing them at a small team meeting. Not everybody wants to see this maybe in the big meetings, but they'll appreciate it in small groups. And then also timely, right? So if you see a good behavior that's out of the ordinary, like above and beyond, make sure that you're recognizing them today. Make sure that you're getting that thanks in there, so that that positive feedback is really tied back into what's happening, not 3 months from now saying, oh yeah, I remember that day when Joe wore his safety glasses with the face mask, right? Timeliness really has a powerful punch into putting all of this together. So it's a little bit lengthy, but if you consider each one of these elements as you go through, this isn't like maybe your every single day type of acknowledgement. These are the ones where you're sitting down at the end of the week and saying, I really want to identify, I really want to practice this, this kind of attitude of gratitude to the people that are working for me. By tying that all in and recognizing that and actively looking for that, you slowly build trust. You slowly build engagement. You slowly modify and lean people towards that culture that you're trying to drive, right?
Absolutely. I think that's great. I'll give you a thumbs up. There you go. Thumbs up.
Thank you.
No, that is cool. Should Spirit have periods between the letters?
I mean, if it's an acronym, you don't have to. You can if you want. You can do whatever you want, Jeff.
I didn't realize that was what it was underneath until you said it. But if the periods were there, I would have known. I just want to be the best leader.
He wants periods.
I missed the whole cleverness of the letter thing.
I will take that as constructive feedback.
I think the hardest part for anybody would be trying to figure out how to work this into their day. I don't mean that as a pushback. I mean it literally, because I think you almost have to like make time to do this to make sure that you get it done.
So I will say that you get better with time. Like, it's a mental muscle, so we have to practice it. When I teach a class, I actually also have worksheets, right? We practice it. And the assignment is that they have to write 3 of these before the next Friday. So they have 1 week to do something. And it's hard to really make that personal and tie it back to that individual's values, because it means that you have to understand what they've sacrificed and what those values are of that person, right? Your family values, your values may not be the same as my values. I am a big like honesty, on time kind of person. Transparency are like words that I like to live by. But maybe for someone else, it's their family time, right? So in the example of the person who got to work on time, they sacrificed some family time to make sure that the driveway was cleared before they came in or something. So you tie it back to those values, and it takes time to get to know the people, but that's exactly what is also helping you build that trust.
So one way we did this at 2 companies ago, when I was leading up the team. It was a team of analysts, and so what we did is every month we had we created a theme. So maybe for fall it would have been leaves. So it'd be a leaf, and then these things would sit out, and people would go and they'd write, "Oh, Angela did a great presentation on Maria's thing." And so in the moment, they would capture what they wanted to do, and then they would put it in the box. We had a box there. And then the way it worked is at the end of the month, I would get up. I literally got up in a chair. Everyone just got around, and I literally just read each one. And I read, and Maria did this, and Maria did it. And then they went on the wall for the month until the next month replaced it. So then
that's nice.
Yeah, so that was a cool. Someone named Colleen Kelly, who I worked with, had that. I had done that previously, and then we adopted it. But it was a good way to do it, because that was more peer based also. I mean, leader or peer based, and then everyone was encouraged to do that. So that was cool. I encourage
My-
students to do that. And then we would create different themes every month, so it felt
That's fun too.
different, you know.
Yep. My son's teacher, they would have kids were allowed to do whatever, exactly the same thing, right? Like they wrote on little notes and dropped it in a bin. But as a teacher, you get to read the room a little bit more, right, with the children.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever there was a down day or she could feel that the energy was waning, she would say, let's read a note. Let's read one of the positive notes. And they would pick out notes from each other and she would read it aloud to the class. And it was always a positive affirmation. And the children really loved it. Like it really picked up their energy. It really responded to them. They felt good that a peer was recognizing them. I think really focusing on learning these behaviors. I don't feel like we had any of, I don't know where I went to school. Maybe we were pretty good at telling you no. And I think there was back in the day where they were still spanking us. So positive affirmation was not exactly the key word of the day.
No, it was more discipline based, and people took the idea of discipline to mean just punishment. Which discipline just means teaching. That's what it means. So
yeah, there was no carrot and stick. It was just spare the rod.
Like you're going to get the stick. You're going to get it if you don't go do what you're told. Yeah. So I think that's normal.
The psychology shows that there is no value in that, and driving by fear is not the way to go. So this kind of, I know some people are calling this new age, but really if you can keep that calm and you can keep that focus, sometimes you do heal trauma even through all of these activities. And so that focus is really important.
Well, and I think at the very core basic human level, we all want acknowledgement because we all crave belonging. It's at the core of everything. And I know I've got a speaking presentation I used to do all the time that was literally just on belonging and how that tied into literally everything, because it does. We're at a core level, we all want to belong. It doesn't matter if we're introvert, extrovert, somewhere in the middle, we want to still belong. It's just at the core of every human. So, much of what you're talking about with this, this positive leadership, this acknowledgement basis really digs right into that. It's, I'm doing something and you're acknowledging me, and then you're giving me that sense of belonging because of that. And, that gives me this like high, this positive reinforcement in my brain that makes me want to do that again because it felt good, right? So it's just that same, that same thing over and over and over. And I, going kind of back to what you were talking about when we were kids, I don't think it's that we had horrible teachers or horrible parents or any of those things. Everything is a learned process. And, even like with me with my own parenting skills, I mean, I'm a different parent now with my youngest than I was with my oldest. I am. Because we mimic the only way that we know how. It's like, okay, well, timeouts and groundings and all this stuff is, what works. And you mentioned fear-based, it doesn't work, especially with very independent, children, which I tend to have all of. So, I think that's just one of those things that if you end up, I don't know if you remember who said it. It might have been Bill Gates that said it, that if you hire in, I'm paraphrasing here, but if you hire in intelligent people, why are we not giving them the freedom to, make some decisions and to kind of pave their own way to a certain extent? And I agree with that basis, because again, it kind of goes back to, allowing them to constructively receive criticisms, but at the same time be able to get that chance to also receive acknowledgements too. And that's how we grow and change. And I like your SPIRIT acronym, even though Jeff wants periods in there.
Put periods in it.
Put periods in, and then it's perfect.
I don't know.
Maria, well, it's an acronym if there's not periods, because spirit is a word.
It is a word.
So it's, I'm just saying.
Maybe it's a double up. Maybe she's wanting to embody the spirit of positive acknowledgement and leadership. I just made that up.
Body, mind, and spirit. Tie it all together, Maria.
There you go.
Maria can fix all my graphics if she wants to.
So there is no technical strict rule on the use of periods. However,
did you just Google it?
If you put the periods in an acronym you use, if it's not familiar with the readers. So no, this is just common knowledge. I didn't.
I just felt like you were reading. I felt like you were reading it off the screen.
I'm not reading Google.
Jeff's putting hashtags
I'm just saying. I want it to
be
be as successful as possible. I love, Angela, that you have made this spirit thing. I'm just suggesting that people would know it's an acronym if you put the periods. That's all I'm saying.
I'm going to put tiny little dots in there just for you, Jeff.
Yeah, like little maybe asterisks, that make it look even fun. I'm just saying.
I'll call them Jeffs.
I'm going to put them tiny little hashtags.
It's just feedback. I didn't get that it was specific because then the specific didn't start at the beginning, right? It looks like timely is the first one. So I didn't even make that connection. And the second you started saying it was an acronym, I'm like, oh, that's amazing that it's an acronym. Now I get it. But I'm just saying, like, I would have caught on faster had the periods.
I hear you. I'm not going to fix it within this hour, but I hear your feedback.
No. You don't even have to. It's just my, I'm just.
I like it. I think it's good. I like the feedback. I like the periods in there too. I guess Ray is still on his call, but if he pops in, if somebody sees him pop in, let me know, because sometimes I get distracted and don't pay attention. But
I don't know if we can see it. Only you.
Oh, you can't. Oh.
No.
So back to making it personal. One of the opportunities that we have as leaders is to take the time to get to know people so that we understand what those values are. And I think this is also part of that team building and that understanding and who we are. Like, how do we build that positive psychology within our group?
I agree. And I think that's why it's so important to do, like you mentioned, team building to, go out to lunch, go out to dinner, to do these things. It's just not clocking in and doing the, tasks at hand. It's super important to be able to really develop all of those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done one of those group, at least here in Michigan, we call them ropes courses, where it's like you have to get everyone over this particular through this web, but you can't touch anything, and you have to all kind of work together. And do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I've done this.
We've also done the wall.
Yeah.
Have you done the wall? Go up and over.
Those are good. Those are good. The interesting thing about those it usually brings out the people that people tend to ignore, tend to have ideas, and it's a good lesson to figure out who you're not listening to enough in the group as well, because not everyone is verbose. Not everyone would have challenged Angela about the dots and the word spirit. But
that's what you live for.
Challenge.
Yeah, challenge. He's like, ooh, I got this.
All right.
Now, I'll tell you what. One of the team building exercises I went to that actually made me a nervous wreck was shows I have trust issues. But do you ever have to do the one where they hold your hands out and you have to trust them enough you fall back in their arms? Do you ever have to do that? I don't like that one.
It's called the trust fall.
Okay, well, and I have a problem.
Maria has trust issues.
I had a problem with that one. It took me a hot minute. I had to psych myself into not paying attention before I fell, because that was not and I'm not afraid of heights. I'm not afraid of any of that stuff, but I was afraid of trusting that they were going to catch me. I would rather know I'm going to hit the ground than to think they're going to catch me and then hit the ground. It was like a really weird thing that I found out about myself. But the rope walls and the, all that kind of stuff, I never had a problem with, but that I did. So, and it's called the trust fall. It's called, I didn't know. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
I don't love that. I don't love
clever name.
It is. It's
I wouldn't
clever.
say that I love it, but I think we started at such a young age. I think I was in 8th grade the first time we did one, and I probably weighed 68 pounds. So, I didn't think I really was worried that they were going to catch me or not. I was like this big.
Yeah.
Well, you need to really catch the person. I mean, you could do some serious damage to someone to let them fall like that.
Of course.
I mean, it's not.
Of course. That's important. Please catch me on my trust fall. Thank you. Yes.
Exactly.
That's excellent. Good job, Jeff.
So as far as, can you remember a time, and if you can't, that's fine, but can you remember a time where, you were working in a job or in a position that you felt that you didn't get the acknowledgement that you deserved, and maybe you don't work there now because of all of that?
Yeah.
You don't have to mention the company's names. I'm just wondering, because I feel like that's pretty common with people that, one of the main reasons people end up transitioning out of a job, either they go from super excited about the job to doing the job to barely doing what is a have to and nothing else to transitioning out of the job. I feel like that is a common occurrence in a lot of corporate positions. And I just wondered if you all could think of, personal examples, because I can think of pretty much all of my examples for that. I would go and go, ready to change the world. And then, I felt like, nothing I said mattered, that I wasn't making a difference. And that's, to me, just who I am as a person. I have to have that purpose. Like there has to be that purpose there that I'm making a difference. I have to see the difference or I don't want to do it. So I just was wondering your all's experiences.
Yeah, I had a boss that I literally once said to him in a review, I said, hey, it would be helpful to me if we communicated more. And so the quick background is I'd moved from IT to marketing. So I was in the marketing team. And so I had no doubts I could do the job. There was a lot I didn't know about being part of a marketing team. His response was, actually, we need to talk less. Now, keep in mind, we barely talked. I mean, we only talk once a week, Angela, and I talk that's more than my boss would talk to me. And so it was when I got let go because of COVID stuff. They had a bunch of COVID. The HR calls me up. I'm like, okay. Like that was the comment. Like, we're gonna have to like, oh, okay.
Peace out.
We need your computer. We can't give you unemployment. It's already on the way. Literally. I sent it back so fast I was surprised it didn't catch on fire. Like that's what I said to my wife. Like the speed at which I sent this back, I probably put all the equipment in danger. They couldn't have gotten it back faster. It was insane. It was like, and there was this one time I did this huge thing for Super Bowl. I mean, months of preparation, war room. I don't know if you've ever sat in a Super Bowl war room, but like out of state, we're all out of state in a war room, managing stuff. And the next morning, nobody says anything to me. And the next morning, kind of looks up while he's lugging his suitcase and goes, "Oh, good job." Yeah. I'm like, "Thanks." And it never came up again. Like never again. I was just like, screw these people. And like, and I was just like, all right, whatever. I just, it was just one of those things. My only regret was not leaving so I could have done an exit interview and given my 2 cents. They just, Yeah. So
I'll share a story of someone else, third party. He's a consultant now and quite successful here locally in Columbus, but he prepared quite a bit of change management type activities, transformational activities for his facility. And someone came in, they were actually like hired consultants, and they took his entire presentation and they presented it to leadership. And he's like, literally, that was my file. Like they presented my entire file. And he decided to go into consulting for himself and has been doing quite well for himself. And he's just like, that 2 or 3 times you just get burned too many times. And at that point, he's like, clearly the consultants think I'm going to go do a good job. So I may as well go do a good job. Left the company after 16 years. And yeah, he's quite pleased with the decision. So I think that's even worse than the acknowledgement, like that he did all the work and then it was just kind of ripped out from underneath him.
That is horrible. Hey, well, since we're going through therapy here, so same boss, I am sitting there, and one of the issues was he felt his job was to make the CMO's life as easy as possible, but he didn't feel as my leader that he had anything to do with me. Like on my job, as I could tell, only existed to make his job easier, to make him be able to look better to the CMO. Does that make sense? I go, and technically that's supposed to be the chain, but not the only, that's the.
You do have to manage up and manage down.
Yeah, but that's the hidden agenda part. You still have to manage the people, right? And so I remember we built this, we were building this deck. Now keep in mind, I'm an IT guy, right? And I consider myself somewhat creative, but I'm not great at making PowerPoints. And it was like, there was just this contention going back and forth. And finally I said to him, is it the content or the fact that I can't make a deck for you to give to your boss. He goes, yeah, this is a skill you need. And I'm like, well, I don't have it. He goes, you have too many words on this page. I'm like, well, if I don't put the words on the page and I never talk to the guy doing it, how is he supposed to know what to say? You know what I mean? Like, it just didn't make, I'm a stand-up comedian. I go on stage, I don't even have PowerPoint. So it's like the idea of visuals to me, you know what I mean? It's like, it just was, anyway. So we built this entire deck. We lost Angela. We built this entire deck and it got shelved. Okay. It got shelved. And then lo and behold, months later, he's out of town. The CEO and all the top executives have a meeting and they need the presentation. And they said, Jeff, go present that thing. And I presented it. It was perfect. They loved it. I was a rock star, but it had been like, they had hated it so much up until that point. But like when I was able to present my own thing and do it, it was like, it was then all of a sudden like, oh, wow, okay. But it was just like, I don't even know. It was one of those things where it's, you know, suddenly you realize you're in a job you love and you can't stand it. You know what I mean? It's like things change, but also, you know, then you get that's what it took months later to get any kind of feeling of that I had done something right. You know, then suddenly it was like, oh, great job. Like,
well, I think that's an important part of that spirit then too, like that timeliness of recognition to drive that positive behavior is where we also have to be cognizant of that. These once a year awards sometimes they're too big or too far removed, or sometimes what I see is like the team that wins is so large, it kind of waters it down at that point.
Well, I agree with you that once a year, and it also tends to favor the same people over and over again. At least with this last place, the last place I worked, the senior folks love to pat themselves on the back and give themselves made up awards that they would create and then somehow win. And then it was such a big deal to win these awards, but keep in mind, you're in a company with 500 people. So if you're in a company with 500 people, what are the odds that these yearly awards that are the top of the top, when you walk around, you see one person with 5, another person with 3, you know what I mean? It's like, you start to think like, oh, certain people win and this certain people just never win. It becomes demotivating. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you going to do? So.
Well, it ends up feeling like a popularity contest instead of, you know, that you did a great job sometimes. And I think that's the problem with it being, like Angela mentioned, yearly or overly big, is that, you know, by that time that a yearly award comes around, you know, how much damage has been done from the little acknowledgements not being met, and how much, you know, resentment is already there with a lot of these employees that are now going to this event to, you know, quote unquote, not win again because nobody noticed what they did, you know, so.
Well, they did it so long ago. Let's assume a normal calendar for a second. You know, they did it in January and it was huge, but now it's December and there were 3 other huge things that happened and people don't even remember the thing from January.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, there's stuff that goes on so much at work, right? Who can remember last week? Which goes to Angela's point of why you have to be timely with everything that you're doing. But it's like, you know, so those kind of things kind of get lost. So it's like whatever's like in the moment seems to be the thing that can get rewarded the most in those yearly type things or quarterly.
So I think it's important to talk about that. Like, how do we actively put in a system for ourselves as a leader to look for that? And one of the things that we kind of talk about, I also am very active in the bullet journaling communities. Many of us have 3 things that we are grateful for each day at the bottom of our notebooks, right? Somewhere when I create my daily page of what I'm writing down, I'm actively looking for 3 things. And it might be simple things, right? I'm going to be telling you that when my kid learned how to tie his shoes, I tie his shoes. But it makes a difference to be able to say daily what these small little wins are. I call them inch by inch goals in some of my blogging, but setting up these really small goals and then being grateful when you win, when you achieve them. Are you guys there? Because I see.
Yeah, you're doing great, Angela.
Yeah.
Angela, you're doing amazing.
Thank you.
I love the way you picked the story and you're telling it to all of us.
Thanks, Jeff.
Welcome.
But talking about very small goals and then focusing on when we achieve those little goals as an attitude of gratitude or creating a gratitude habit, depending on what words you want to use, those little celebrations help you see that in other people as well. And then help you understand what those little values are for them. And it's the small things that make that difference that build in.
Absolutely.
So I think as a leader, first understanding what those gratitudes are for your daily things before you even begin extending that out to others. And the small ones are the wins, not those big. The big ones are nice. They're very formal, but they don't drive behavior. And what we're talking about is a performance management. We're talking a behavior management or behavior modification. That's where you're starting to win. And that's where you're really driving it home to that personal level of what those values are.
No, I agree with that. So what are some steps? I know you've given some suggestions, but what are some steps that, leadership, whether it is a small business, owner that has a few employees or contractors, or a larger business, what are some steps they can take to start to remedy this, other than some of the ones that you've already given, or are you just thinking about the ones you already given?
No. So remedy kind of negative behavior or remedy negative thinking?
Remedy the fact of not acknowledging enough, because I think that to me anyway, I think that is a great, easy cornerstone to all the other things that needs to happen is just simple acknowledgements.
Sure. You're very familiar with some of my manufacturing background. So a lot of times we talk about plan, do, check, act. And really, I think putting in systems, like the importance when I say plan, do, check, act is because we're putting in a system where we're checking how we're achieving our goals. And the part there that's important is, okay, I'm going to try something. I really like Jeff's story about the leaves, and we had a theme, and it was at the end of the month. So this is a really nice way of starting, because now you've got peer-to-peer recognition. What I heard, though, was that he said, hey, Maria did a great deck. Okay, this is a great thing to say, but how do we take that to the next level where we're saying, Maria spent some extra time creating a great deck, and I know that commitment shows, or like maybe it drove in an extra sale, or maybe that demonstration of her commitment was something that was new on her part, right? Maybe it was something new for you to come in because you're still getting new to the company. It's like taking it the next step where you're relating it back to the personal values of the person, and then also how that impacted the company. Takes 2 or 3 lines more, I'm not going to lie, but the memory sticks with you much longer than saying, I did a great deck.
Yeah.
So when we talk about plan, do, check, act, what we're saying is let's plan it and do it, and then see what that positive impact is. And with act, it means, you know what? Jeff didn't get that it was an acronym for spirit. So my action would be to take that constructive feedback and add my periods in going forward, or some other graphic maybe to make that work, so that a broader audience can understand right off the bat that we've created an acronym that helps us identify what this formula is. That would be my act of that. So creating a system really goes a long way as a leader, because it keeps you honest, right? Like I just put on, for me, it's these 5 minutes at the end of every day, what my attitude, my gratefulness is. I don't share all of those, but it does make it easier for me when it's time to come and say, who am I going to say thank you to? Who am I thankful for? What activities happened today that make me thankful? Driving that forward. And honestly, sometimes I just have, when times are tough, like we all have them, I have to lean on some of my gratitude days previously to kind of get through, right? It builds me back up, and I remember this, whatever, a jingle or a laughter or something, and it kind of gives you that energy to go forward. So I think creating those systems for yourself, and not everybody's system's the same. But again, for me, it's the 3 little things in the morning or in the evening that I'm writing down. and then using that to project to once a week, where I'm really looking forward to acknowledging somebody's positive behavior for us in the workplace.
Absolutely. And I like the example when you were kind of pulling the deck, the deck example out and listing specifics, because at that point, if I'm the employee, I'm thinking, okay, well, they really did look at what I did. They really didn't really notice, what I did. And then I also like that you mentioned that it was the first time ever. So I think sometimes we can get caught up in the size of the accomplishment. And, it's going to make a big difference if somebody's been in a company for 20 years and 2 months. So, their accomplishments might look a little bit differently. And I like that, you mentioned an example of even a small accomplishment, like, the first time they did this, or, the first time they did that, because I think those are really important, especially when you're talking onboarding and just kind of acclimation to a new company and a new job and all that. So I really like those examples.
Thank you.
Great examples, Angela.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. And I do love this spirit thing. I do love it.
Jeff's backpedaling.
Well, no, I didn't backpedal. I just said I just didn't realize it was an acronym. So that was it. But other than that, did you write this? Is this your thing? So
yes.
That's fabulous.
Thank you.
I
have others.
I'd love to see them. This is really, really great. So the part 2 of that leaf example, or whatever that would be, like when the month would be done, like we'd then pass them out. So Maria would get hers, you'd get yours, and then they'd put them up in their cubes. And so it became like a decoration. It sort of became like a kind of a status symbol for, for that, in terms of, showing off all the things you've had. So they didn't just kind of disappear. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that.
I used to keep a file folder that was called kudos. And in some companies, like, I just took it and I would just put it in my little manila folder. Some places I've worked, I got quite a few. And some places I've worked, I got none. And I don't think I was the person that changed that much. I think it had a lot to do with company culture, right?
Absolutely.
So I think there's a big deal. It tells me a lot about a company when I walk away with a little folder of things and I walk away with an empty folder of things.
So did it make a difference for you when you look back at your work environment with those 2 company examples? Was there a big difference in the way you felt and your value, how you felt your value as an employee?
I mean, 100%.
I figured
100% for sure. So, one company shall remain nameless, and the other one, I'm so proud to have been part of those activities. We have parts floating on naval ships all around the world. And the legacy associated with that has been fantastic. So,
and it really doesn't take much. It does not take much to, I look back at one company in particular that I worked for, and it was very much an abusive work relationship, and I felt like the more I gave, I was trying to earn the acknowledgement, but it didn't matter. It was just like on to the next thing. No matter how high the achievement was, it was, well, what's next? It was never a great job, and that after a while, it affects you, and, it took me getting out of that company and looking back to see actually how bad it actually was. It was literally like an abusive relationship. And because, I would be about this close to quitting. And then they do little something nice, just something like, I'd be like, okay, well, maybe it's not so bad. They still love me. It's literally like an abusive relationship. They still love me. They love me. They do, and then it'd be right back to the same thing again.
Well, so that's a little bit of gaslighting.
It's bad.
You want to hear a funny story? This is meant to have been a positive thing, but to this day, it turned out to be like one of the horrible, horrible things. So at the end, all my stories are about the same guy, but at the end of it would have been 2019. 2019? No, it had to have been 2020. Yeah. Before COVID, just the December before COVID. So right.
Okay. So that was
2019. Okay. So, sorry, my time frames are completely.
That's all right.
So I get this note, and it says, now, Kimo, we had just started working together. I just moved into this department and stuff like that. So, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm making this up because I don't remember that, but it was something like, Jeff, it was, you know, you're such a great leader and everything you're doing is so great, and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, I read it and I was like, euphoric. Okay. Like I couldn't get over it. Okay. Spoiler. Remember I told you about his boss. His boss's name was also Jeff. He gave us the wrong cards. And so when I got my card, it was kind of like, and again, I'm just paraphrasing to how I felt, not necessarily what it specifically said, but it was like, hey, Jeff, it's been a year. Can't wait to next year. And then here's literally an AMC movie ticket printed coupon, like a physical thing that you would actually take to a movie theater. I'm thinking to myself, who in 2019 hands somebody something physical to go to, like, this was given to you 10 years ago and you just put it in my envelope. And I was like, it's still in my drawer right now. It's just a constant reminder of the worst thing I was ever given. And and it was just like, but then it was like to then go, oh, what he should have done, because there was no indication that other than him telling me that the other card was for the other Jeff, he should have just let it go.
He should have let it go. Right.
And he should have just rewritten the other guy's card and let me just feel how I would have felt. But it was like, it was one of those things where it was like, oh my God, just even, I hadn't thought about it till you were just talking about this, and then reliving it in my head right now. It was like, wow. Because I'll tell you something, one time at a company, I worked at a company called ePrize, and I oversaw all the production teams. And I don't remember what it was, but there were some really rough times, rough times. Morale was so low. And I to do the best I can to help, you know, because sometimes words, I literally hand wrote a note and mailed it to them. I didn't put it on their desk. I mailed it to them. Every single person in my department, like it was at least 100 people. And well, they didn't all directly report to me, but you know, I mean, I was responsible, and it was just to tell them how important they were, and sent that to them. And I didn't feel putting it on their desk would have had that same impact, because that's a cheap way to do it, right? That's like here. And I mean, that was a long time ago. That was like my big, I peaked way too early with my kindness. But I remember, but it's those kind of personal things, I think, that, you know, that do kind of connect you with who you are, because you know, at the end of the day, any company can throw you out anytime they want. I mean, you know, that's why, Angela, I personally wouldn't kill myself in snow to get anywhere who would throw me out the next day, right? I mean, those aren't the type of things I'm going to personally do. I'll go above and beyond in my job and what I'm supposed, my work and all that, but I'm not going to risk my life to physically be somewhere to make my boss happy that I'm physically somewhere. And so anyway, but like,
but I mean, okay, so that's a choice, and I never would expect anyone to put themselves in harm to come to, in fact, like, safety is a major tenet. However, for the individuals who chose to come, for the individuals who said, I can safely get there and I can overcome the obstacles that are in front of me in order to take care of my customer, they deserve an extra level of recognition for that day. I'm not saying I am never asking anybody to put themselves in harm, right?
No.
But I think it goes back to your own boundaries. So whatever your own boundaries are, you establish your boundaries, you know, whatever those are. And everybody deserves their boundaries on every level, including professional boundaries. And, you know, I tell this to people all the time, that don't let anybody, it doesn't matter if it's your boss, your coworker, your spouse, your friend, whatever, you don't let them cross your boundaries. They're there for a reason. So, and Jeff was listening to your story and said there was too many Jeffs. So.
Hi, Jeff.
Too many Jeffs.
Well, that's how I felt. And other Jeff will appreciate this too. So I'd been at this company for, like, one of them is going to find this and they're going to play it. And, you know, good for them. They should. So, I mean, I'd been at this company for 3.5 years and I was Jeff, right? And so this is how the mentality of some people. So now that the bigger boss was named Jeff, they called him Jeff, and they changed to what they called me. Okay, you know how demoralizing that was? Like, it was very, very much so. It was like, Exactly, Jeff. Exactly. But it was like suddenly you're like, oh, you're not Jeff anymore because someone more important was brought into this company who happened to have the same name as you. So now you've been demoted.
What did they
Oh
demote
my
you
gosh,
to?
what did they call
But
you?
I don't even remember.
Not Jeff.
I don't know. It was
Jeff
just like,
too?
it was just one of those things where if anyone said the name Jeff, it should be an assumed that they did not mean me. It was just like, it was just, you know, it's hard for you to,
No,
you
that
know,
wouldn't make me
if you
mad.
worked for tons of people, then all of a sudden they were like saying Maria and they didn't mean you. Like, and these are
Right.
people you worked with for years. You know, it was just one of those things. It's like those little things that like nobody cared about. They never said any happy birthday to me and nothing like that. So, you know, what can you do? It's just me. You know, it's got to be. It's me. I'll take it. I'll take full responsibility.
No, it's those little acknowledgments.
It's probably because I didn't try and bust my ass on one of those snow days. And it was just kind of just.
Is that a Detroit hat you're wearing? What are you?
He lives in Detroit.
Oh yeah. See, we're from Ohio. We don't have that much snow anymore. We used to have snow. I used to live in the snow belt. Not anymore. Right, Maria? Maria stays home when it's cold too.
There's not much snow. There's not much snow. That's just because I hate the cold.
I'm the I'll get there no matter what the snow is. I'm like,
I can drive in it.
I put my cross country skis in the car. If my car slides off, I'll ski the rest of the way. Like I don't let the snow hold me back, but that's okay. I live it.
If I have to go somewhere, I'll drive. I have no problem driving in it. I've got a Jeep that actually handles really well in the snow, but I hate the cold. Physically hate it, so I don't if I don't have to. But no, I think that, you know, you were mentioning, Jeff, even birthdays and stuff, those little things, it could be the most tiny things ever. They do make a huge difference. I can remember there was a place that I worked that they would remember my name. Now, they didn't remember some of the other people that I worked with's name. It was terrible. They would always forget their names. They remembered my name, but they would always forget that I had kids or forget that I was married or, well, you don't have kids, you're not married, so you could, I am married and I do have kids. You know, it was just little things like that. That was just like, oh, just annoying, you know. It's like, you know, it doesn't take much. Learn about your employees, learn about what they like, learn about what they don't like. Those little touches add up. And you mentioned, Angela, that your company has 2,500 people. It's kind of hard for, you know, upper management to know all 2,500 personally, but that's why it's so important to have, you know, the teams where you're able to kind of mimic that small business atmosphere, because there are negatives to having a big company, and that's one of them. Sometimes it can feel so big that you feel like worthless, you know, useless, and like you don't have a real name, you're just a number. And to be able to get over that, I think it's super important that you establish those team dynamics more than just I've seen some companies try to establish the teams, but it's more, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it. It's more for just keeping them under control. That's about the nicest way that I could say it, but you know, they're not utilizing it properly.
I think there's a lot of value in establishing a culture by intent instead of a culture by default.
Yes.
And one of the reasons I actively teach, like this is a course, I literally teach people how to give these. We practice them. It's uncomfortable for them the first couple times. Then we actually make them get up and say it in front of people. And if you're not comfortable speaking in front of a group, then that's uncomfortable. And it's a small group, 5-10 people. Yeah. It's never more than 10. But we have to actively practice this, and we have to practice it over and over again. Like practice makes perfect is what we say, but really we're never perfect. Practice just makes us get a little bit better and maybe a little bit faster. It makes it easier for us. And I mean, sometimes
perfection's a verb.
It's asymptotic. It really isn't a destination. But I've written acknowledgements. We have little award systems where you can kind of go in and it sends it out so that the masses can see it. And people have come back to me. They've walked into my office and said, no one has ever thanked me like that before. No one took the time to get to know me, to understand. And I think these kinds of things are very telling about the culture. And okay, I've moved around, so please don't assign this to any particular one company. And it's very different from manager to manager, supervisor to supervisor, team lead to team lead. But at the end of the day, we don't know what we don't know. And our job as leaders is to, one, actively look for ways to improve ourselves and share that knowledge with our teammates. And we can share that by using some of these positive messages and actually teach as you go. And that's why I really love about it is like, I'm teaching, I'm sharing, I feel like I'm modeling, I'm trying to model, right? Like, I'm not going to say I get it right every day, but bringing that positive energy brings that positive energy to them as well. And
She froze.
But that's a great way. I think that's a great place to end.
Yeah.
It's a good wrap. Angela is amazing. And she gives all this away free at angelabuckley.com. I don't know if that's true. I made that up.
It's creatively efficient.
Do I need some periods in there, Jeff?
Yeah.
It's creatively efficient. And Angela, real quick, I know you've got that leadership training. Mention that real quick before we end. That way, if somebody's interested in finding out more about that.
Sure. It's called Strength in Nature. So a lot of my analogies then are taken from flowers, from hiking. I think there's a lot that we can learn from our natural world with just grit and resistance and persistence. And so I use a lot of the analogies for that, and we transfer that to leadership, whether it's on the shop floor, whether you're a construction crew, just all of the, not just the mental mindset, but I really focus on the difference between strategy and tactical, right? So, hey, say nice things and give acknowledgements, but I'm going to tell you what that formula is to fill that out so that you can really learn how to have a positive impact, not just be nice and be happy. So that's the forum that I really try to work in, is that transition for helping people really be hands-on and practical in their application of a positive mindset. So Strength in Nature, strengthinnature.com is my website. I have courses, check them out. Email me. I'm good with that too.
Thank you so much. And Jeff, do you have anything else you want to say before we end? No,
it was great. Thank you, Angela, for sharing
Thanks, Jeff.
this with us. And then if anyone out there, jeffisfunny.com, I do acronym consulting. You may be familiar with some of my work, NASA.
Oh, excellent.
And as such. So just reach out to me and I'd be glad to help you. No, great stuff, Angela. I love this. This is my favorite one so far.
Thank you, Jeff.
That was super good. I liked it. And I think it's important. So if you are a part of a leadership team, start thinking about the little things. Little things really do add up. It doesn't have to be I think a lot of people think it's going to be something grand, so they're waiting till the quote unquote perfect moment to start something. But you can start right now just by acknowledging things verbally and kind of build from there. So make sure you check out strengthinnature.com. Angela is brilliant when it comes to leadership, and I'm just helping her with the acronyms, as he mentioned. So, that's perfection right there. So until next week, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Business Acceleration Playbook, bringing you the plays you need to win in your business. Until next week, bye.
See you guys. Thank you.